Keir Starmer has personally approved cutting back briefings for journalists, despite saying that the press must hold politicians to account. Downing Street is facing a backlash after announcing that the 2 daily press briefings of the Westminster lobby should be reduced to 1. Do you agree with that? I mean, the less I hear from these people, the better, frankly. But sadly, we do have to hold them to account. One of those people is Ross Clark, who's a columnist at The Sun. What are we hearing here? Ross, is it? Good afternoon to you, by the way. What are we hearing here? Is this a bad thing?
Yeah, it's not unprecedented. It's Keir Starmer really going through the same process that so many prime ministers have gone before him. As time goes on and criticism gathers around his premiership, he's sort of retreating into the Downing Street bunker and wanting to face reporters rather less than he did in the past. Having come to office, of course, praising the free press and so on, all great part of the British democracy and so on. But now it seems he doesn't quite want reporters being exposed to government spokesmen quite so much as before. Journalists have been promised more press conferences instead of these sort of twice daily press briefings,
but they're
really
sort of
ad hoc things which don't necessarily, occur on a day-to-day
basis. Does it
basis.
matter though, Rod? In reality, I mean, we'll cry foul, right? Because we're journalists, but and we want access to everything all the time. But does it really matter when it doesn't appear this government or any government really is doing that much that they need to tell us about it twice a day?
No, it does matter very much that government is accountable and answers the questions which are put to it. I mean, the government's of argument is that, look, maybe newspapers and even the classic TV stations, the big TV stations, aren't quite as powerful as they once were, and maybe the sort of new media, the bloggers and the
he's on TikTok now,
and so
isn't
on, and TikTokers are sort of more important. And you can see the government thinking that they sort of think, well, we want to get our message out more with those sort of people, those new media people, to engage with a wider variety of the population, and maybe people who don't take a newspaper or don't watch TV. And but I think it's going to sort of, and Blair tried the same thing. 20 years ago he was sort of trying to promote the sort of bloggers and so on, and he seemed to have this sort of fantasy that they were going to be more on his side than were the sort of traditional press, but of course they weren't. And the bloggers started attacking him just as much as the classic press did. So I don't think it's going to turn out any differently this time. I mean, if you retreat from your daily press briefings, then you're still going to get held to account. I mean, unless you're actually going to start jailing journalists and jailing bloggers and so on.
Well, we're seeing
we're
that
still going to get held to account.
Becoming a reality in America, possibly. Look, the thing is also, Ross. I mean, I've literally been around the block so many times, and I'm very old now, and I've tried all through my career to interview politicians and to hold them to account. I now pretty much refuse to interview them because I don't see the point. So I'm not sure in these press briefings or that even with some journalists who have got bigger backbone than me, who can keep pushing and pushing and pushing, do they ever tell us anything anyway? Do they ever tell the truth anyway? Do they ever stand by what they say in truth at that moment?
Well, if you tell an untruth in the sort of press briefing, that tends to get sort of found out, doesn't it, really?
It doesn't stop them from woollying around it, does it?
I mean, these press briefings, I mean, they're not sort of fronted by Keir Starmer himself or other ministers, really. They're more press spokesmen, so on. But we got used to it, didn't we? During COVID, we had those daily press conferences, and
They were a joy.
they were a joy, weren't we? Did they help us?
No.
They probably didn't necessarily help us sort of understand what was going on, but they did, they did expose a certain amount of the way that the government was trying to manage the news flow. And of course, they were televised, and a lot of people during COVID didn't have anything else to do other than watch sort of daily press conferences. So it was almost a sort of
It was a highlight.
it was a bit of a liberalisation, wasn't it, of the whole thing? But yeah, no, I mean, normally these are sort of quite dull events, I think. And I'm not a lobby correspondent, so I don't go to
Yeah,
them.
I can only imagine just how boring they are, and yet still considered vital. But are we seeing the right kind of pushback from journalists at the moment with politicians? Because they obviously don't like pushback.
Yeah. Yeah, well, of course, so bear in mind what's happened over the past few months, which could possibly have led to the government to have a rethink. Of course, we had the most agonising budget in history when day by day we had stuff briefed about the budget through this sort of process, and it sort of created this idea where everybody was going to be whacked with some new tax. Every day the government seemed to dream up some new way of taxing us, and in the event it just sort of frightened businesses, it frightened consumers, the housing market gummed up and people stopped buying
But
houses.
that was deliberate, right, Ross? That was
Well, it was
because then,
deliberate.
but by
Yeah.
time we get to the budget, we go, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Well, exactly.
It's
There's
gaslighting
news
us.
management, so you
Yeah.
need people to think things are going to be
Exactly.
really awful. When they're merely awful, we're sort of pathetically grateful, aren't we? But I think the government doesn't want to repeat
are.
that sort of process, and that's maybe what has sort of fed into this decision to sort of limit the press briefings. But of course, the fact that they hold press briefings doesn't mean that they have to leak the budget. I mean, many governments over the past 50 years have held twice daily press briefings, but they haven't sort of leaked the contents of the budget. That was the government's own.
Well, now we know that the spring statement is March the 3rd, I believe. They'll start doing that. They'll start leaking for that soon, surely.
Well, no doubt. We're going to have 3 months to look forward to that.
I know. Happy Christmas, everyone. Do you think, though, that our politicians here are held to account enough? I mean, not just by the press, although the sort of the first wave, isn't it, of defence against politicians is probably a free press. But is the press getting weaker, do you think? I mean, I fear, because I look at what's happening in America with the press and the cancelling and the suing and all of that, that if there were to be a change towards the press in this country, then it would weaken the press here. And I'm very proud of the fact that we do currently have quite a robust media landscape. Is that weakening in your view, Ross?
I think nationally, no. I think although fewer people buy newspapers these days, they still break stories, and that gets taken up by social media and so on. I feel that nationally the government is held to account, but what I really fear is locally. It's local government, the decline of local newspapers, which is really preventing councils being held to account.
I agree.
And so things that bloggers might be a little less interested in. And I think, councils now are getting away with the sorts of things which, they would not have got away with in the past. And the sort of, we had a sort of woman fined for pouring the dregs of her coffee down the drain by some sort of Nazis employed by the council. That sort of thing, and the waste and the expanded chief executive salaries and so on, what's going on at local level, I really do worry about, and we really need a stronger press at that level, stronger media.
I absolutely could not agree with you more. And my bugbear is councils and how they are taking us for fools. They really are, and wasting our money, and then playing roulette with it as well. Investing in shopping malls and things like that never get built, or hotels that never get opened. It's like, what are you doing? That's our money. You can't play with it in that way. Completely agree with you. Ross, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a good Christmas, don't you? Ross Clark there, columnist at The Sun newspaper.